Hey everybody, happy Friday. So today I just wanted to check in with you all to give you a very brief summary and just some good highlights and things to really take into and to really keep in mind as we all come to this wonderful holiday approaching Christmas Eve and Christmas break. Wonderful Christmas celebration to be with our families, to be with our loved ones, to really just reflect and to really think about all this past 180 to 200 days of 2019 and really also come across with the many things that we've done, whether if it's bad or good notations to just really um, anything else that we all have in mind of talking about. And these are things that we really want to be able to talk about when we see our people, or when we reunite with the families, when we reunite with the family members to talk about the accomplishments, to really talk about also, yes, the weaknesses, but of course, take the time to really improve for ourselves. The things that we want to talk about, really, it should be stressed on in our family functions, in our very family members that we see as of today. And I can go back and just really reflect from my testimonial experiences and from the things that we have done and have shared, of course, with the included activities that we do as families. As very many families have included fun activities, or whether of those who don't do a lot of participation and go to the functions to do that. That's based on their personal reasons, of course, because and of course, again, a lot of the reasons come into the factors of why we don't attend family functions, because one of the reasons why, and again, you can really check facts yourselves to find out why. Political rivalry and political opinions, the very things that separate people from the family functions and the functional dynamics in the family tree atmosphere, is that the opinions and the divisiveness collide when at times it's hard to really just gather the thoughts and actually have a very candid conversation. Now, I understand, as some of you all are asking right now about, okay, what are you talking about, Georgi? What are you talking about with family and having family functions? What does family function have to do with the political rivalry opinions and be able to celebrate the very best important holiday? So the point that I want to make specifically here is really have candid discussions about yourselves towards others. Have candid, open discussions. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of the setback. There's going to be the strife, the aggression of people saying, well, I don't think this is going to be okay for this person to run for another office. Well, here's the thing, folks, because we're so brought up into that mentality, we're so brought up in that condition, we're then, again, being forced to brainwash ourselves and to feed our brain with this unuseful, useless material that really is not keeping ourselves focused as real people in our family-oriented dynamics. Because one of the things that we're so cooped up with is as a result of our dog-headed mentality. The dog-headed mentality that, of course, you might or might not have come across, and you might or might not have come to realize the very functions that we see ourselves and that I've actually also seen myself as a person is witnessing to the very family relationships that keep people talk about, whether if it's politics, whether if it's sports, whether if it's in the joy of activity, or if just a competition of constant skills of who can do better than this, who can do better than that. When we should really worry about is constant cherish in talks of having the family conversation. One of the things that's really not talked about in family dynamics, in the family functions is, and again, no pun intended, I'm just an anonymous. I'm, like I said, a messenger, being able to put out my important my important information, my important experience, my life experience, speaking actually from being born overseas and then having to transition all the way to the Americas and learning the English language, catching up on the educational system, which is a crock, by the way. Which is a crock that spewed useless information that we're not really actually fully using our applied knowledge to the life skills, which is why we're so struggling to this day. Why our applied knowledge that we've gained the abstract from the educational system to where we are now, and why we are so brainwashed and preconditioned with that. And again, listen, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. So getting back into the realm of just functions of family dynamic, the proper ways of really being able to have candid discussions with family is to have that purpose, in that agenda, in that encouragement, in that very enthusiasm, and the smile. You know, one of the very many things that women, okay, I give a lot of respect and credit to the women who are so good about relationship, the caring of the relationship, to be able to assist and to really advocate with so much support to everybody, even just within themselves, to other women, to close partners, sisters and brothers, because in that relationship they carry the very things that they can really be assisting in. One of the very many things and examples, okay, I came across by a long-term investor. She was in the stock market industry. She was a Wall Street analyst. Naomi Prince. Naomi Prince was a very great advocate of people who lost their their investments in the stock market industry, where in the early 2000s, this was before the economy started going down. The U.S. economy started going down from tube after tube. Then it improved, and then it fluctuated. She was an example of one of the women who, in the business sector, was an advocate of people getting their well-vested funds back. Because in that time, not only 40% lost their investments, but 80% of the investments that people invested in the markets, they lost a total, because they had so much of bad, phony cronies who took all the investments. They brainwashed the hell out of the sales and the whole gimmicks of all the product installments that they offered to the customers. Now the customers lost back then, which was so hard to get back. So getting back into the realm of the functional dynamics of being able to approach people more in a relationship mentality than an aggressive and dog-headed mentality. Now, as I understanding, to get what we want out of life and to get what we are today, we have to be dog-headed. Wrong. I disagree with that. I find that to actually approach in life, we can be aggressive, but also be more energetic and enthusiastic by carrying that enthusiasm and the smile every day. As of course, in the status quo, the realm, we call it as playing the game to survive, playing the game to stay ahead. But wouldn't playing the game actually be better off to get with the one percenters? You know, the one percenters of successful people today, talk about those kind of people, the investors, the business owners, the CEOs, and you can go on and compare. You can talk about the competitive ideology of the political rivalries. That's all BS. That's all mediocre. That is all mainstream talk that the mainstream wants us to be surrounded with, to be sucked into, to be well into the whole mediocre lifestyle. Now, my understanding that some of us don't have a lot of would you say, the creative and innovation mentality, where we can come up with various number of things that we can so much as if we can create our own doing for our best foundations. And in doing so, of course, I've gone back to many videos that I've explained before in the realms of the level of energy that we can really carry ourselves. You know, the level of energy that we can really carry ourselves in our functional dynamics of the family communication, to carrying that level of energy, to really talk to your family members, to talk to your coworkers, to talk to your close colleagues on as to how we can really so much as if we can create ourselves for the better foundations that will set us into the best profit margin, but also the creative, innovative, and also in the open-minded and honest plus optimism. Open-minded, honest, and optimism. Now, as I understanding, at times it's okay to be closed-minded in the opinions that you have, in the very opinions that you have. And so, for example, of course, we don't like to talk about money in our family functions, because, and again, we have our opinions. We have our very strict opinions that we like to adhere to. But also doing so, to really actually understand more about it, to actually understand yourself more about it, wouldn't it hurt to just swallow your pride? Would it not hurt? It would not hurt for all of us to just swallow our pride, swallow our useless ego. And again, check in that ego. Check your ego if at times when you've come across with a very rough and tumble attitude, you have that rough and tumble relationship coming up out of your brain. Well, listen, who's been around this whole world and who knows more about money? Okay, that's ego right there. That's an example of ego coming in. One of the very main characteristic things that not only the people I listen to have actually that I follow through YouTube, Brian Rose, Elon Musk as well, Chip Connolly, one of the great examples of psychological analysts, and is also a very good talks of checking your ego. Check your ego. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He talks about that too. Checking your ego. Checking to make sure that your pride is not getting in the way. Because remember, pride and ego goes before destruction. Pride and ego goes before destruction. The very many things that we've come across with very destructive areas in not only just from the manufacturer to financial to healthcare is our pride and ego. And that actually comes from both sides of the sexes, the men and the women, the disruptions and the polarization, the very oppositions of races and sexes, the issues of inequality, why people are not getting paid the same rate. Well, it's because it's the systems that have set above us before that have carried that realm in the direction. The very elites who have, of course, the big pockets, the more power and the money to corrupt, influence the mediocre, to perform that, to not have to give out the truth, the meaning of what is actually really purposeful for everybody, what is really good to talk about. And so these are things to really actually talk about amongst ourselves in our family functions, coming up with our Christmas holiday and the very exciting accomplishments that we want to talk about. But again, when you do that, when you talk to your family member, when you come across with certain occasions, make sure to check your ego. Check your pride. Don't let the pride and the ego go before you. Have that very honest talk with your family member and not have to have that very non-petty stuff get in the way of just saying, I'm better than you. I've gone a lot more than you. Folks, we don't want to do that. The more we do that, the less we are capable enough to succeed. So we're asking ourselves to basically change. What I'm suggesting to everybody is to change. to change how you're talking, to really change and readjust how you're carrying, how we can carry our level of energy for proper and functional reasons. Proper and functional reasons. And get rid of our dog-headed mentality, because that's going to destroy us. And before we even know it, the next 20 to 30 year generation is going to change. It's going to change from a whole drastic approach. You know, the very things that we see in our family relationships, in the American society at large, but also worldly at large too. All countries all across the country. One of the very many things that we still struggle at large, societal as well, is basically relationships in the family health. The relationships in the family health. And again, the very dignity and the human decency starts from home, starts at the confines of your own home, is to really carry out what is really going on. What's going on, basically. You know, one of the very many things that, as of course, and we can be all politically correct and so fake about it, but really, that's not going to fix anything. That's not going to fix any problem. The quick fix, the political correctness, faking your ways, wearing that mask, is not going to fix any problem. Properly and most functionally, excuse the big words here, properly and great, it is better to go with the pain, to endure that pain, to go with that long stride and the enduring sense that yes, you can overcome. We can overcome. We can still be more capable. But in all best, stay ahead of our system. Stay ahead of our very American system that we're into, such as the financial, the healthcare, the employment. Everywhere you see. I know it's boring to hear about it and have to talk about it, and you don't want to hear all that nonsense, because you want to hear what you want to hear. We want to hear what we want to hear. We want to be able to enjoy the sports that we love, which is great. It's great, but at least take that moment of the time to just look into the sources to make sure that we're not being fucked over. Okay, we don't want to be fucked over by the system. And that's one of the things that, through my observations and my research, is that, of course, and correct me if I'm wrong, 70 to 80% of our Social Security and retirement benefits are going to be whitewashed 10, 20 years from now, because one of the very main countries abroad that who we depend on is China. China is not only our ally, but also a concern. This was something that was actually briefly talked about from a former National Security Council by Robert Spalding III, who was interviewed with Patrick Bet-David out of Valuetainment channel. Check it out for yourselves on YouTube. Valuetainment on YouTube. Talked about the very concerns and our very investments that we really work hard for, the hard-earned money that we work for, is now, of course, actually said, and of course, being taken away behind our very eyes, because our hard-earned money is being stolen. It's been proven and statistically researched in the very intelligence and analyst databases from the National Security Council that we got to address this problem. We have to be aware that, yes, we don't really need a lot of whistleblowers, but in order to get ourselves across, to get ourselves informed, to really be open-minded, also an alert of what our country's financial system is doing to us and what the world financial system is doing to our country's financial system, is that we have to be completely confident and sharp as to where our money is going. We want to make sure that we're able to take care of ourselves in years from now, that we're not going to be brought into and succumb to this control tactic of the one world government. I talked about it in my rough draft letter I shared with you all. So I share this as specifically and as clear as possible. It's not as to bore you with any nonsense details, but also to really make you all aware from my experience and from my testimony, from what I've come across, from the things that I see from my very eyes. And it's a big concern. It's not a joke. It's a very big concern, and very scared about the direction of where this country is going to go financially, but also in trades, healthcare, government affairs, but also really be aware about everything you can see. Take a look into any fact source news that you have: Fox Business, Fox News, the Market Watch. Boring as it can be, but it can save your life. It can save your family's life. Some things to really take a look into, to think about as you're enjoying your time with family, you're celebrating the meaningful holiday of Christmas. One of the things I've really also thought about is the observations, the very things that we want to be able to reflect on, but the very things that we want to make sure also be prepared for: our security in the finance, in the healthcare industry, in our food and drug administration industry, our national security especially. Take care, everybody. I hope you found this very useful and informative, and also happy to provide my feedback with the comments, and you all have this wonderful time. So take care, be smart, look alive, stay aware, everybody. Be good. Bye.